journalists who actually care about the facts should dig deeper into this instead of regurgitating fake statistics to push the false narrative that DC is safe when everyone knows it's not. That's in response to Eric Daugherty. Holy crap, the chairman of the DC Police Union reveals how extensive the fraud was in hiding the true DC crime stats. Higher-ups were going to crime scenes and saying, don't write that one down, or don't add that to the list, or put that down as a more minor offense, and so on and so forth. So let's check this out. It's a few minutes.
So can you confirm for
Let me turn it up.
that there have been police officers and detectives and members of law enforcement in DC who on the scene of crimes have been told, yeah, don't write that one down, or don't add that to the list, or put that down as
absolutely,
a
I'm sure
more
they did
minor offense?
Absolutely. That's one of the chief complaints of our members when we go around and talk to them, is that they respond to the scenes of these violent crimes, and inevitably you'll have a captain or a commander or sometimes a lieutenant show up on the scene and advise them to take a report for a lesser offense.
Sure.
One of the things that we see them do often is sometimes
Even
there'll be
though
a
it's up to the
shooting or a
arresting
stabbing,
officer, if I'm not
and if
mistaken.
the victim is uncooperative with the police, which is not uncommon in some areas of the city,
Or the first
they'll be
officer on
directed to
scene.
take an injured person to the hospital report, which is not even a crime at all. It's an incident report. Sometimes you'll have a robbery. It'll be reported as a theft. Other times you'll have burglaries that are reported as unlawful entry or thefts. This is something that's been, unfortunately, part and parcel of the police department for some time, and we're very skeptical that these crime stats are accurate.
That's extraordinary. What is the motivation? Why are these commanders or
Fucking
higher-ups
ridiculous, man.
arriving on the scene during apprehensions and telling police officers to indicate something
The hell is
other
that?
than what actually happened at the scene?
Well, the only explanation could be to keep the crime stats
Bullets.
down, because politically that's expedient for the police department and elected officials in the district. I mean, let's go back to how we got
Don't
here,
believe
which
your
is that
lying
in
eyes.
2020, the DC City Council
safest
passed the
city in 30
Comprehensive
years.
Policing and Justice Reform Act, which was a sweeping piece of legislation designed to hamstring police officers, to reduce the size, scope, and responsibilities of police officers. In addition, it also prevented us from holding criminals accountable even when they're convicted of crimes. And so now here we are 5 years later, the police department with an authorized strength of 4,000 sworn members, we only have 3,180, leaving us with over 800 vacancies for the position of police officer. In order to make up for that gap, the police department uses 2 million hours of mandatory overtime.
Look, it wouldn't surprise me at all if Washington, D.C. got rid of the sex offender registry because, oh, it's so discriminatory. They've already paid their debt to society. They shouldn't have to be tracked and followed and have to report every time that they create a new email account or every time that they join a social media. They should be fine just to do whatever they do. We do live in America with our democracy.
To cover the demand for police officers. And so because of that, crime has skyrocketed in the district. And one of the things that we think is going on in the police department, which who knows how high up that those directives are coming from, is to make sure that these crime stats are reported in the most favorable way possible.
Evil.
I mean, what you're saying obviously substantiates what we heard from President Trump. He said they were opening.
It's evil. Why? Why? If it's a dangerous city, okay, fine, combat it. Everybody knows that all these cities are dangerous. So it wouldn't matter how bad the stats look. Either way, it's a dangerous city. I know that they're trying to make themselves look good. That's really what it is. I'm sure the mayor is just giving orders to the police chief, who hands it down to all the officers and say, or that they'll tell them just to make lesser crimes whenever possible so we look better. But you're not serving the people. You're serving your own self-interest. You're not abiding by your oath that you take to serve and protect. I mean, they should all be jailed for doing this. I mean, this is, how is this not like outright fraud? This is absolutely fraud. And God knows what else. I mean, there's got to be other crimes tied to this, surely.
An investigation, and that he didn't
Betrayal
believe,
of the
because
American
what happened,
people.
I don't have to tell you, I'm speaking to the audience at large, but when President Trump said he wanted to bring in National Guard, all we heard from many quarters in the media and in leadership in Washington was, this is ridiculous. Our numbers are lower than they've been in a long time in Washington, D.C. We don't need National Guard presence on our streets. I mean,
yeah, 400 murders a year. That's really, really
very
good.
Egregious. This is lying to the people, the constituents of Washington, D.C., and lying to the federal government about what your numbers really are.
Well, you're right, Martha.
Yep.
It is a crime under D.C. Code.
I believe it.
It would be false swearing and it would be false reporting. And those are statutes in the D.C. Code that make it illegal to do that, to
Well, there you
falsify
go.
police reports or to change the data.
There you
So if the
go.
DOJ is in fact investigating, I hope they do. And if they find that somebody was intentionally manipulating the data, they should be held accountable. It's
I
a
hope
crime
they
in the
arrest
District
every
of
single
Columbia,
one of
and
them.
frankly, it's a
Of course,
disservice
they're not going
to
but
the police department.
certainly
It's
be
a
nice.
disservice to the city, and most of all, it's a disservice to the victims, whose police reports are not being properly
Amen.
handled, and we're not dedicating the proper resources to the crimes that they've been victims of. So something needs to change here, and this is an important issue.
I mean, isn't that what the left is always talking about, like victimhood and victim mentality, and you have to overcome your victim? I'm a survivor and all that shit. But they're manufacturing it. I think that's part of their intention. They're trying to manufacture all this crime so they can essentially farm victims and more victims so they can get the help that they need and whatever. It's just absolutely insane. And I just cannot believe that they fudge the numbers and they don't even care because they've never been held accountable for it. Reported crime numbers, actual crime numbers. Good one. Both PDs I worked at massaged the stats before reporting them. I'm sure it happens all over the place. It probably does, especially when you have perhaps a police chief who might want to run for political office one day, which I'm sure is pretty common. I'm sure that's not rare when they do stuff like that. Oh yeah, I forgot my music. Um, yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. It's no longer Republicans versus Democrats. It's America versus communism. It is. That is what it's boiled down to at this point. It really is. And it's been like that for like 9 years now, if not longer than that. The whole social justice warrior bullshit started, I would say, probably in the early 2010s. And it's just gotten way worse. And they're manufacturing all this shit from college universities. That's where most of this shit's coming out of. And in recent years, they have handed it down into the high school areas too. And I know like COVID woke up a lot of parents to see like what's going on because the kids were doing school from home. So the parents who were lucky enough to be at home, well, I say that, kind of lightly because a lot of people were furloughed from their jobs, but a lot of parents who were there to observe their kids, they saw some of the crazy shit that they were learning and they freaked out. Rightfully so. Let's see. Crime stats are absolutely being treated this way in most of the dim cities. Remember Alvin Bragg's Day 1 memo. He announced loud and proud that he was downgrading a lot of serious crimes. The funny thing is, I didn't think he had that power. I thought DAs, AGs, and law enforcement officers were mandated to enforcing the laws as they were written, not deciding to change the application of the law. Absolutely. It sounds almost illegal. Amen. Because it is. We own the city. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's like they want to play the part of Judge Dredd. It's like they're going to just hand down the law as they see it. I mean, like Judge did. I guess he didn't really do that. I mean, he still applied the law as it was written. He didn't just make up shit that didn't exist. But yeah, bad comparison. Anyway, DC is rigging crime stats in broad daylight, turning shootings into hospital visits and robberies into thefts. They're also creating patients for the psychiatrists and the therapists and those, what were they trying to replace officers with social workers or some stupid shit like that. That's what they want. They don't need cops. They need crime crisis counselors or whatever the fuck they call them. But if you ask or poll a retired Chicago NYPD cops and detectives and bosses, they will say they were doing the same thing at their precincts. You'll see that it was the norm to downgrade or get rid of complaints. Yeah, I'm sure they did it all the time. I'm sure they did it all the time. I'm sure that there were probably cops, like if a woman was raped and she went to the hospital, I'm sure sometimes detectives would probably try to talk her out of it because, well, the issue that we have, honey, is that we're so backlogged with the rape kits and it could be years before we find out, and, statute of limitations, and I just don't want you to get your hopes up. Basically kind of framing it in a way that it's pointless to even file a report because, we're never going to get the guy. I'm not saying that's happening. I'm just saying that wouldn't exactly be the most surprising thing I've ever heard.